Hi, Louise. Thank you so much for joining us today on our show. Marnie and I are really excited. And I have to give a big shout out to our mutual friend, Michelle, who made this introduction. And actually, it was several years ago that we met. I remember doing a workout class with you. And this was like before the pandemic. And then fast forward this past summer, we got reacquainted and learned more about the community that you're creating in Minneapolis. And Marnie and I actually had the wonderful opportunity of going to Sauna Strong before it even opened and doing a sauna experience with you and your special straws that we'll talk about and the cold plunge. And it was just so invigorating. And we can't wait to have you on. We couldn't wait to have you on. So glad that you're here today. And before we kind of dive into the bulk of this conversation, one question we love to ask all of our guests is, what is your one non-negotiable to start each day?
My non-negotiable to start each day is getting in the cold water.
I knew it.
Yep. And even though I love coffee, don't get me wrong, like that's a little later. That's not as important as getting in the cold water.
Well, we're going to dive into this topic today, so we don't have to, go into it further right now. Yeah. And Sauna Strong, because I know you've been so busy getting ready for that opening. So anyway, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Oh, it is my honor, and I'm so glad that we already got to spend some good sauna quality time with both of you. And yeah, it's so awesome that we get to connect here. And big shout out to Michelle too. She's the one that connected the dots, and I love that.
That's awesome. Well, Luis, we would love to hear about your story in a nutshell and how you came upon this journey and how you got involved in sauna and cold plunge and all of these wonderful things that you're doing now. And I know that, some of your journey maybe has been a little bit difficult along the way too.
Oh, totally. I mean, every road well traveled has to have some difficulties, and I really embrace the aspect of life that life is meant to have some complications, and how we navigate those waters is always what makes us stronger and gets us to a better future. But yeah, I kid you guys not, I feel extremely lucky that I am where I am now, and I have the knowledge that I been able to gain through just experiencing life the way that I have been able to experience life. And so with that being said, I would like to share, when I'm kind of sharing my story of how did I became the Sauna Papi, or how did I started this business, or coaching people with the stuff that I do now. It all happened by I'm a guy from Guatemala, from Central America, that moved to the US but started living in Minnesota in 2012. And it was my hate relationship with the winter that led me to discover the power there is in cold water. And that really accelerated like the process of me diving really deep into all the stuff that I know about that industry, or that aspect of the wellness industry these days. Like a lot of people are jumping in cold water right now, and trying to learn more the benefits of that. But yeah, it was literally the winter in Minnesota was destroying me. I couldn't handle it. The first 2 winters that I got to spend in Minnesota were very hard. And yeah, I was not only in a negative mindset going into them, like it got all really quick. Like after my first winter, I'm like, this is horrible. I got sick like 3 different times. I was putting so many layers every day. So the timing of getting from one place to another all of a sudden was longer, and I never had to wear layers before in my life, really, and so there's a lot of those little things. But the biggest piece of the pie was like the aspect of getting sick and feeling like negative, almost like I felt like I was in a almost depressed from the winter. And I knew I needed to fix that. My background is in endurance sports. I grew up being a triathlete, and being a competitive athlete through most of my life. That led me to become a personal trainer. I've been helping people with their health journey, and the fact that I was being so affected by the weather and the winter here, I was like, I need to figure this out. I need to figure out what can I do to learn to tango with the winter in Minnesota if I'm gonna plan to stay here. And I was definitely planning to stay here because I have two kids with my ex-wife, and my ex-wife is from Minnesota. I ended up marrying another girl from Minnesota now, and I have another set of kids. But I was like, I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm staying here, and I need to learn how to deal with the winter. So yeah, 2 winters after that, the guy from Guatemala discovered the power of cold water. So I started literally very out of curiosity. I started doing research on ways to get more resilient about the winter, and I came across an article. And they were talking about Wim Hof in this article, and how cold water was a fix, a very easy solution for not getting sick. So like, I never heard of that, but I do have access to cold water at home, so I'm gonna start taking cold showers. So literally, I started taking cold showers almost 10 years ago now, and I can knock on wood. I haven't been sick, literally. I'll get like a little rundown here and there of, I feel like I'm getting something, but it never kicks in really, and I can say out loud that I have not been sick in almost 10 years. And I give all of the credit to the cold water. But yeah, that's kind of like the story, the beginning of the story for me. It all happened because I started to expose myself to cold water, and it started with cold showers. Every winter that I went into, I started just going a little deeper with the cold. My second winter, I started just wearing less layers and actually trying to simplify my life a little more. I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna die on a winter day walking from my house to the car in a t-shirt. So that was like a big win for me, just starting to simplify my life and exposing myself to more and more cold outside, and learning the reward that happened from getting more cold exposure, and also feeling this kind of level of happiness that you experience every time that you go outside of your comfort zone, and then you go back into a comfort zone. You kind of experience some very high level of joy. So I was like, wow, life is so simple and we make it so complicated. And very organically, I started just kind of diving into trying all of these things related with the cold, and I was like the best guinea pig that I had, because I was experiencing all of these things, and I was able to start slowly articulating them to some people, and I started noticing the same kind of effects by sharing this type of stuff with other people. But yeah, literally every winter that has gone by in the last 10 years for me, I've been able to tap into going a little deeper with understanding the cold water, and that cold water is what led me to discover saunas, breath work, and all the stuff that I do now. But that's basically the beginning of it. It started from there.
Wow. I mean, you were just taking advantage of the natural surroundings in a Minnesota winter. Yeah. You didn't even have to do anything, right? Well, the rest of us are bundling all up. You're just like going out there in your t-shirt.
Yeah. I think because I never grew up having winter. Part of me wonders, when you grow up with something and you just know that you're going to have this seasonal effect, you kind of get used to it, I believe. For me, it was a very like, boom, drastic change. I don't like this. I need to fix this somehow.
Yeah.
And then I experienced my first winter of just doing the cold showers. And I noticed like, wow, I'm back there, maybe even actually better now. I want more of that, So maybe I was maybe a little lucky that I had this very different approach to experiencing a winter in Minnesota like that,
Well, and it's interesting that you just heard of like the Wim Hof theory or method or whatever, and then you're just like, oh, I'm going to try that. And it like really propelled you into this whole thing. How long were your cold showers lasting in the beginning? Like I've
You
tried a
know,
cold shower and I'm not a
I,
big fan.
yeah, it was, I kind of dove in head first. Like I actually, at the beginning, I was not even doing like a regular hot shower. I was making it super hard on me. I was like, I would just open the cold water and I would jump in and I would try to take my regular shower in cold water. So, I mean, right at the beginning, I was doing probably like 2, 3 minutes in the cold, and those were 2, 3 minutes of taking a very cold, quick shower because that was it for me. And I'm like, I'm out of here now. But
Yeah.
then I started changing things up. I'm like, hold on, why don't you just clean yourself and do a regular hot shower like normal people do, and then end in cold? And I even play with the contrast or doing a little bit of hot, a little bit of cold. And I was like, I'm gonna cut to the chase. I'm gonna do a regular hot shower, and I'm gonna end in cold, and I really liked it. So my average, I say, is always anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe 5 minutes of cold if I'm doing a cold, if I'm just going into a cold shower. These days now, I also have access to jumping in a cold plunge. So, but if it's a cold shower, like, yeah, anywhere from 2 to 4, 5 minutes, that's a very typical time for me.
So okay. So I just started doing this about 10 days ago. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
inspired me. I think it was you, really. And my sister started doing this too. And I'm not doing a hot shower. I am just going in cold shower. I mean,
How do you
honestly,
shave your legs?
well, we can go. Yes.
Seriously,
It
like
doesn't. I know. I think about that every. Well, we'll leave that for another conversation, Marnie.
oh,
Because
but that's
yes.
like a good logistical question. Like,
Well,
how
then
do
you have
shave
to-
your legs?
You have to have warm water for that. You have to
Right.
have warm water. I don't have to shave my legs every day. Anyway, so I do go in the cold shower, and I noticed that because at first I thought this was all crazy, honestly. Even I've done cold plunges a couple times, and we'll talk about that, but I do not like cold. I do not like cold. And I'm like, I don't know what it was. I was just motivated to do it. And I started breathing because I remember when we were all together, you really helped us take these breaths. And so I noticed if I started breathing before I got into the shower a little bit and then throughout, it made a huge difference, to the point that the other day I literally only had probably 3 or 4 minutes because, like, my kids, I had to do something with them. And I was kind of bummed that I had to get out of the shower, and it was cold. I mean, I can't have it be too cold because then the water pressure isn't quite enough.
Well, and
But I mean,
right now
it's cold and it
the
feels really good.
yeah, and because we're coming from the summer right now, we're still experiencing that the
Yes.
tap water is not that cold yet.
So you're telling
But
me
you
it's going to be
still.
really cold in like this.
Oh yeah, just wait
January.
until we get to November, December. I mean, once we're in January and February, the water is so cold. But then you keep the water temperature stays really cold until like June, and then
Okay.
starts to warm up a little more, and it's almost catching up like from a couple of months behind almost. It's interesting how it works, the tap water. But yeah, it's gonna get colder.
Okay. Well, that's good that I'm starting it now. My body will have some adjustment period before it gets too cold.
Well, maybe we should talk about like some of the benefits of cold plunge, because here we are just chatting about it, but let's let our listeners know what those actual benefits are. And I'm also curious, I've heard from a certain naturopath that Stephanie and I have studied under that cold plunge really isn't for everyone. And I bet you would disagree with that, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still processing all of the benefits of the cold water, to be honest. And I am no expert. I am no doctor. I'm not a scientist. I am a very good guinea pig. That's who I am, So
You're a scientist on yourself. You do your own science
I do
experiments on
this
yourself
all of the time, and I put thousands of people in cold water, and so I've seen a lot of different experiments, and I'm telling you, in my opinion, cold water is for everyone. And this year, or actually as we're getting into this next winter, I have never been this excited before as I am this winter. I'm feeling like I'm gonna dive so much deeper into the cold water this winter, and I'm so excited to go learn more. And every year I'm learning something new. But this year in particular, this is the first time that I am actually thinking or realizing, and I have also listened from other people that are very knowledgeable in this, in the effects of the cold water. People are starting to call it is medicine. It's like, yeah, you get a lot of the benefits of, back in the day, a lot of people were athletes were jumping in cold water for basically attacking inflammation. Okay, I work out, my muscles, my joints are sore, this is going to help inflammation, bring more blood flow to the areas, you get to recover your muscles that you're working really hard. But then people started discovering all of the other side effects too, like, okay, I'm not getting sick, I have more energy, I have more mental clarity, is affecting me in a very positive way depending on what time of the day I'm doing it. There's different things that I can do with the cold water that are gonna allow me to go into a specific area of my life or of my day by dialing myself there. And every year I've been like, when I started doing cold plunges in the lake, I started like with the water up to here and my hands are out and I'm like, get me out of here. And I'm not even like understanding that the shivers are good. I don't need to be fighting with them. My hands were getting very cold and very achy. Slowly every year I kind of went from being here and even wearing neoprene gloves, neoprene booties, to getting rid of that. I started going deeper and deeper and deeper, and I started realizing that when I get in that water, I can actually let go of everything. Which is the stuff that I'm telling you. That's kind of my new approach. It's like all starting to really click in my mind. Like the cold water will basically squeeze whatever might be going out in your life. If you're under stress, it's gonna take it out. If you're feeling areas of your body that you're in constant pain, it's gonna mute that when you're in it. So it gives you this almost like high level of meditation that just happens so quick. But if you learn to breathe and if you learn to let go and be and let go, the water will teach you so much.
Well, and I remember when we came and tried the cold plunge, I shared this earlier, but I was driving down there thinking, I'm not doing this. I'll do the sauna. Yeah. I'm not doing the cold plunge. I don't like the cold. So, when it was our turn to go, I wanted to go first because I knew if I didn't, I probably wouldn't go. And that's so true. Like, I remember getting into the tub, you were right there next to me, helping me breathe. And I think that I was so focused on breathing and listening to you and counting and breathing and counting and breathing that I literally did not think about one other thing except breathing and counting. And it just forces you into the moment, and everything else did just fall away.
And Marnie, you did it longer than you thought. Like, you had a goal in mind and you went like 2 minutes more. So,
right, because he tricked me.
Yeah, you did. You did so amazing. I was very impressed that it was your first time. But you did so good about following your breath and letting go, relaxing, and I think you incorporated some of the important components right away, and you got the benefits of, like, it was a longer session and you felt so good. But at the same time, like, talking of that, is like, think how many times we need to go do something that we don't like to do.
Right.
It's not to the extent of I don't want to jump in cold water. And I kid you not, every time I think that I'm about to go jump in the cold water, I get that little nervous, anxious excitement or nerves. It never goes away. But now I know how good it is for me to go do something that I don't want to do, that I can actually meditate once I'm in it and then let go of everything and then reap the benefits in so many different areas of my life. And back to kind of what I was telling you both earlier, going into this winter, I want to experience more of that. at the beginning stages, when I started jumping on frozen lakes or doing cold tubs with ice, I always had like a target. Okay, I need to do 5 minutes. I mean, we did a lot of very long sits on the cup, but it was almost like a competition, like, oh, how long can I go? And
Yeah.
I was always measuring it like that. And then I started, instead of counting time, I started counting my breaths. This last summer, like a summer, not this past summer, 2 summers ago, I started going under the water with the bamboo, with the papi stick. And I started just feeling this experience of approaching life with your breath focus all of the time. I was like, this is incredible. So now I'm going more into how much deeper can I go to connect with me when I'm in that cold water? And every time is something magical happens if you let go there, and that's the stuff that I'm very intrigued about learning this winter. And I'm gonna be doing a lot of cold sessions during the winter, and I just cannot wait for those lakes to freeze and to start doing it outside in the winter, which I really like that.
And
Well, maybe you'll
it's
take
like there's
Stephanie and I, I was just going to say to the lake, because we have
Absolutely.
talked about that for like 2 years now. Oh, we're going to jump in a lake and
Yeah.
do that in the winter, but like it kind of scares me. So
we're gonna, Marnie, that's it. We're
you.
doing it, and you're keeping us accountable, Luis.
Yes.
But,
Oh,
so
yeah.
there's physical benefits that we talked about, but there's obviously this emotional, mental, spiritual component which you touched on. But I've heard, and maybe you can talk about this, like the mental benefits from like a mood standpoint, like helping, I mean, literally like boosting your mood and your energy, which I think is something that our listeners could really, would be very interested in.
Yeah, it definitely has that effect of boosting your energy. So if you're kind of on a negative mindset, or if you're lethargic, you feel tired or low energy, the water will give you a very high dose of endorphins. You're gonna feel very, very alive. So it maximizes that sensation, and then therefore you have more energy. You're happier, and it also puts you kind of in place again. Like whenever you're in that cold water, you cannot be thinking of many things. Your body is only thinking of, okay, I need to, if you're doing it correctly, you're thinking of breathing. And if you're doing it incorrectly, you're thinking of, okay, I'm shivering, how much time do I have? And you're still under stress. But yeah, the benefits when you do it correctly is like you're like a supercharged human being after that, And
I think we can attest to that because
I
we
was just gonna
experienced
say that both of you can attest to that.
So what is the minimum like a person needs to be in the cold to really get some of those benefits?
There's some research, some studies. I might be wrong on what I'm gonna say, but I believe you start reaping the benefits 2 minutes into the water.
Okay.
But to me, there's different levels too. Like to me, the deeper I get that water, I mean, if it can touch the back of the low part of my skull, even getting something like back in the day before I got the papi stick, I was submerging myself up to here, and I feel like it activates your brain so much. You have so many nerves that travel to your neck, it's the big highway for your nervous system. So you're kind of doing a big reset there.
And what about the temperature, Luis? Like what?
I think, like obviously, the colder the water, the faster you start getting the effects of it. But I think you can get benefits on water that is even like below 60 degrees. So it doesn't need to be 40 degrees or in the mid 30s or lower 30s. I think
it's not like the colder the better.
I mean, to me, once you get to a very good threshold, for me, it's like anything below like 45 degrees to 32 degrees.
Oh, wow.
You're in very cold water. To me, the colder the water, the more you're gonna be working your brain to relax more. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, so I think that the once you're below like in the below 45 range, you're probably reaping the benefits pretty quickly versus a little warmer temperature. It probably you probably need to sit a little longer there. But again, I'm not a scientist. I go kind of by feeling, you know. And to me, every time I go at least 2 minutes under the water, sorry, like getting fully submerged in water that is below 45 minutes, I feel incredible.
All right. Can we pivot just a little bit? I feel like we could go on and on about this, but you mentioned your poppy stick and breath work. And I know you have your new Sauna Strong facility that's it'll be open by the time this episode drops for sure. And it's like workout and sauna and cold plunge, but you're really into the breath work and breathing. So can you talk a little bit about your poppy stick, which I know people can buy on your website, and the benefits of that, and really just the benefits of using more of like the primary versus secondary breathing muscles. And I know a lot of people have been into mouth taping at night, but a lot of people aren't doing that for their workouts.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I noticed that was off when I got in the cold water the first time, like the first time I jump on the frozen lake, I noticed my breathing. I was like, my breathing is so off the charts right now. And because I'm an athlete that does endurance sports or was doing very competitive endurance sports, I was always very aware of my breathing. And I knew that, wow, this water is really putting me under a lot of stress. So immediately I went into, hey, you need to dial your breathing and you need to relax. And the minute I started just working on dialing my breath, I noticed that it just got way easier in the water. I kind of stopped fighting with it. But to me, the breath aspect of everything that we do and everything that I try to coach these days to people is like breathing is the main factor of your existence. You know, you did the first thing after you were born, and it's going to be the last thing that you do before you die. You're all the time, you're breathing. You stop breathing, you're going to die. You know, like you cannot just completely stop breathing. So then seeing the connection that it has with everything that we do in life, and we just don't realize it, you know. I started just really diving and exploring what the breath is. I read the Oxygen Advantage book, and then I read a Breath too, and I kid you guys, they were like the beginning of opening my eyes to understanding nasal breathing versus mouth breathing. But then you put into the mix that I started noticing certain patterns of where I could enhance my experiences by learning how to breathe better. That's when I started just connecting the dots. But again, I go back to the cold water. The cold water really teach me like, wow, there's such a strong connection with my brain, how it operates and how I'm breathing. And then pairing that with movement, exercise, human functional motions that we do, there's certain ways of breathing that we need to know how to do or experience doing when you're trying to perform in life, you know. And it's very unfortunate that nobody really teaches you how you should be breathing. To put it in a nutshell, you should be breathing through your nose all of the time. You know, you only save mouth breathing to when you're speaking, when you're eating, when you are doing a very, very, very high effort, such as a sprint, or like if you're working out on a very high effort, you're gonna be mouth breathing. But there's a place to try to maximize breathing through the nose and make it better and better and better, and use it when you're recovering. So to give you a perfect example of the stuff that I'm talking about, is like, think of what happens when you're about to get into a car accident. You kind of lose your breath, right? You're like, like if you're driving and somebody cuts you off, you're like, so the breath is always there, and it affects so many things. Oftentimes people go into very short and shallow breaths because you're already under stress and your body doesn't know how to calm down. But if you immediately start just breathing a little deeper, using your belly more and stop just breathing too shallow, you start relaxing your entire body and it changes your mindset. So to me, the breath aspect of it, of things, is connected to so many different things in life. I Oftentimes, I kid you not, because I have little toddlers, like the kids are always testing your limits, right? So there's been times that I feel like, okay, I'm about to get very frustrated with my son or my daughter, and if I just take a couple of very deep breaths and focus on my breaths, I calm down, and it gives me another approach all of a sudden, so it's like we have this incredible tool that we barely ever know how to really use, but we're using it all the time,
So
and then
I was just gonna say,
yeah.
So I read the James Nestor book on breath. I think
Yep.
I can't remember what it's called. It might be
It's
called
breath.
Breathe.
That's the
or
one he was
Breath.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I read that book and I still have not purchased mouth tape, but I need to do that and try sleeping with it. But I've tried to work out with my mouth closed, and when I'm doing an intense workout, I struggle. Like, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
just like almost like I can't explain it, but like at a low level, I have no problem breathing through my nose. But once I get to, I'm not talking about sprinting, even lifting heavy weights, it's like I'm gasping for air. And I just haven't quite figured out how to. I know you can train yourself to almost extend the amount of time you can breathe through your nose before you need to breathe through your mouth, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you don't practice it, you lose it basically, and then it gets harder, but you have to go through that process of building it up, and it's just gonna start coming back to you. But I mean, it's uh, it's it's pretty eye-opening to see how many people are breathing through their mouths without thinking about it, and it's not the healthier way to breathe, actually, and you're not getting full oxygen advantage of filling up your lungs the way that they should be, and you're not even working all of your breathing muscles when you're mouth breathing.
Not to
But
mention all the dental stuff and the
oh
stuff
yeah.
that's going
Mhm.
on in your mouth physically with when you're mouth breathing.
Well, and
Yeah.
snoring, like
Yeah.
I bought mouth tape. I mean, I put it over my husband. He
Does
he
it
doesn't listen
work?
to this pod. It does. It's if it stays on him. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you got rid of the snoring by just mouth taping his mouth.
Yeah.
you know but back to the training, like in your particular case, you have tried working out with the mouth tape or just breathing through the nose, and you have experienced how hard it is.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Gracies, but these are like Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters, and
No.
they do all kinds of stuff on MMA. And these guys are it's like the Gracies is like a family from Brazil that this goes back like 100 years ago. They started training martial arts. And long story short, the guy that started this concept of training this Brazilian doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and started like his own academy, and started developing some of the best athletes in the sport. um, they interviewed this guy. He's like an 80-year-old guy when they did the interview, and they were very curious about, like, what are you guys doing that is so different than anybody else that is making these incredible athletes and bringing this type of results. And he talked about working out always at 70% of their effort, and learning how to breathe through their nose, basically, as much as possible. So he kind of developed this method. These guys called it like training in the flow, but it's learning to exercise at a 70% effort, kind of gauging it by your mind. Okay, 70%. It should be hard, but I'm not going all out, and I'm still having fun, but I'm still putting work in. So basically, they started doing the vast majority of their training in that flow. So they started noticing, like, hey, I can train more days a week with this approach because I'm not getting injured. I'm not getting so run out. And I'm enjoying going to the gym knowing that, hey, it's going to be a fun workout. Yeah, I'll have to do some work here and there, but it's not like I'm going to the gym intimidated or deflated already into a very hard session, you know? So the moral of the story with these guys is over time, that's 70% for each one of them. It just kept growing and growing. In their mind, they're still thinking I'm training at 70%, but you're slowly taking more care of your body and you're starting to do more workouts because you're feeling good and you're not taxing the body too much. And they start noticing that in a 1 year span, they will increase so much, but in their minds, they're still training at 70%. So it was very eye-opening for me to hear stuff like that and start pairing it with the breath too. You know, a lot of times I feel like most people go to the gym with a very dialed workout plan, but the workout is not even talking about breathing. So what happens if you start putting the breath piece in the front of your workout and then you're starting to exercise, move with approaching it from the breathing perspective, you know? And then what happens is just, yeah, it might feel a little harder, which means, hey, you need to go a little easier at the beginning, you know, and start to get to a point where you enjoy it, but you're working with your breath. And then you start noticing, okay, it's starting to get easier. I'm not thinking too much about it. To me, like these days, I used to be very mindful of how I was breathing back in the day. I would cut myself every once in a while breathing through my mouth. And then I kid you not, like I constantly kind of check where I am, and I'm breathing through my nose so much these days. It's just amazing, and it happens naturally. And if I start working out, the first thing that I go after is my breathing right away, you know. But to even give you a little more perspective, when I first play with the concept of breathing only through my nose, I was not doing a sauna. I was doing cold therapy, but I wasn't really approaching it from the breath aspect of things. I was actually running a lot, and I kind of approached nose breathing to see if I could improve my VO2 max. So I just started after reading the oxygen advantage. I was like, well, I'm gonna start trying to run breathing through my nose and only saving mouth breathing when I'm doing very hard intervals. And I did basically in a 1 month span. I was only able to run an 8-minute mile breathing through my nose when I first did the test. And my average pace usually on a regular run was faster than 8-minute miles. So I was like, wow, this is really humbling. I can only run an 8-minute mile. In my mind, I'm like, this is not the regular Luis here. And then I didn't do anything but breathe through my nose all of my runs for an entire month. And I wasn't even mixing workouts or anything. I was just going for regular runs, breathing only through my nose. And I allow 1 month to go by. And then I tested myself again. And I was able to run under 6-minute mile in 1 month, breathing through the nose, you know?
Okay. I'm not even a runner, but I want to try that.
Impressive. I'm actually running in a 10-mile race this weekend. And
you're doing the Twin Cities.
Yes. And I keep thinking about, I wonder if I try and run with my mouth closed. But I think that would be really hard because I haven't trained for that. I don't know.
I will highly recommend before you do a race like that, just do a lot of training in it, because it will make you're going to feel like it's going to be way harder, you know?
Yeah.
And if you're doing it, you're probably going to be running slower too. So because it's a race, you probably want to go execute your best plan right there. And I think give yourself some time to try it really well and start doing it.
Okay.
So all this information you shared is so fascinating. And you've really created this community and this lifestyle between the sauna, the cold plunge, the breath work, and the workouts. And I know you wrote a book and you just recently opened up Sauna Strong. It's just, you're really helping people, like bring people together in a community of like-minded folks to live more fulfilling and joyful lives, right? So, how is all of this helping people create those types of more meaning in their life and more fulfillment and joy, everything that you're doing. And maybe you can share a little bit about the book that you have, and because it's really this lifestyle. It's not just like going and jumping in a lake, once a week and then that's it, right? You're trying to create this like really movement in this Sauna Papi lifestyle.
Yeah, I was thinking more like going and jumping in a lake once a year. So, so yeah, maybe expand on that.
Yeah, I mean if you want, I'll start just talking with the book. Actually, the book is a very simple, like easy to read type of a book. We only have it on Amazon. Amazon is publishing the book for us, and I did it with my business partner Harrison. Basically, somebody asked us the question like, hey, if you ever write a book, what will be the components that your book will have? And that just got us thinking of it, and we were like, hey, let's just put a quick thing together that I think it will be easier for us to put together. And basically we just highlighted the lifestyle that you guys were saying, and we dive in some topics. We go a little deeper, like cold water and sauna, but also we talk about the simplicity of life, living with less, spending a lot of time barefoot, trying to have a community. So we try to basically put a very clear picture of this is the lifestyle that we have been living, and these are kind of like the side effects that we have noticed, and we're just putting it in an easier kind of format for people to read it and dive into these topics and start just applying some of them or all of them in people's lives. But I kid you not, like my passion for helping people and what I have seen through playing with cold water and sauna, creating community, learning how to breathe, making your life a little more simple, becoming almost like a more wild human being, is so much of everything that I do these days that I'm so honored to be able to share this type of stuff with people and see how much it starts affecting people these days. And that's like I love being able to come to the community and be able to bring something that I know is so powerful and people are lacking these days. And then again, I go back to these side effects that I see with people, and I feel very lucky because I get to show people some very incredible human experiences that you can do on your own. But then we can talk about it, and that builds a very incredible community around it. Doesn't matter who you are, like what your background is. Like when you're getting in that water, we're all talking the same lingo. This is what's happening. This is what you're experiencing, and then you talk about that. Or sauna talk, you're sitting in the sauna. Okay, I'm about to tap out. Like, how are you guys doing? And having very simple human-like conversations allows you to create community. So I feel like I'm able to facilitate right now the opportunity to, hey, let's get people together. Let's share these things and let's start thinking less complicated. Let's start thinking less complicated with everything that we do, because everything is so fast-paced and hard these days that, hey, back it off and let's go back to the basics.
So, I mean, Stephanie and I talk about community a lot on this podcast, and we're firm believers in building community, and we hope we're building our own community here with the Art of Living Well podcast. But what types of fun community building events are you planning for the Twin Cities? We would love to have our community join your community in some of those events.
Yeah. We are, I mean, first and foremost, Sauna Strong we're almost fully open. We're kind of in this soft opening phase right now. But yeah, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be kind of opening the doors completely. With Sauna Strong, we're a gym here in Linden Hills, and we're going to be doing a lot of community events where we are getting together to do workouts, to take people outside, do breathing sessions with people. So as part of the gym concept that we have, we're always going to be putting a very high emphasis of doing community events that relate those things, you know, and they're going to always be open to the public. To me, it's always such an easy way to open the door of my gym, of the stuff that we do, to, hey, just come see what we're doing. And I can care less if you become a member. If anything, I just want to show you a few tools that I really want you to do, because I know that this is going to continue to affect how society gets better, you know. And I go back to just you experiencing something that is so powerful, and then you go talk about it with somebody else, and it's something so simple. And then I think we're sitting on something so powerful that can make this world a better place, and it's already happening. I have so much hope and faith on all of this.
That's awesome. And I know you had an event last weekend. I wasn't able to go, so I look forward to participating in one of those events. So this is just pivoting a little bit before I know we need to start to wrap this up, but we know you've done some pretty cool experiences like the Hell on the Hill and Biked Across America, and, you know, with Jesse Itzler and some of that group of your friends. Can you just share a little snippet, or, you know, talk about it a bit, and really how those connections have propelled you on your path and what you're doing? And that's a community as well, right?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I following my passion of just getting in cold water and doing the stuff that we're doing in the winter on the lakes here. That kind of allowed me to put myself in the radar of Jesse Itzler, who literally saw a video of Harrison and I walking shirtless one day to go to the lake and go jump in the frozen water. He literally saw this video and he was like, yeah, I wanna go kick it with those guys. And then they were planning on doing one of his masterminds, big trip. They call it the Mesogi. It was for basically 30 people that are in this group, and he actually had the idea, hey, why don't we take the Mesogi group, this group, to go experience cold, you know? So long story short, I connected with him. I was able to facilitate a retreat for these people. We basically have people sleeping on tents on the frozen lake, and then jumping in the frozen water. And we did breath work. We went on hikes outside with minimal layers. And that was like my door kind of opening with experiencing what Jesse Itzler is doing and what he does, and then that opened the doors for me to connect with more individuals and actually becoming very good close friends with Jesse. But he kind of recognized that I was very knowledgeable in saunas, and I was doing cold therapy very hardcore here, and I think he caught a little bit of this wild aspect of me, and it was very intriguing for him. And then, yeah, we started just connecting more. He ended up purchasing saunas from us here in Minnesota, and then started inviting me to a bunch of the events that he was doing. And right around that time, that's when my Sauna Papi character had become official on Instagram, you know. So all of a sudden, I'm the Sauna Papi, and it's like it kind of started all kind of getting a lot of direction with my own personal character, you know. But it's like, hey, this is me, it's Luis, I'm the Sauna Papi. I love saunas, and I love having people experience how I do things, and that became the staple for me with this Sauna Papi. But yeah, then I this year I was very honored. Jesse invited me to bike across the country. He invited 9 of his closest friends, basically. And we bike from San Diego, California to St. Augustine, Florida. It was 14 days. 10 of us living on RVs, and we're holding a sauna, and we did the whole thing, raising money for a charity that buys bicycles for kids. And we raised like $150,000. And at the same time, it was such an incredible experience. But yeah, I'm very involved with All Day Running Co. Extremely good friends with all of them, with Devon Labesque. And I've been basically facilitating sauna solutions to a lot of people in their network too. And yeah, and a lot of people are kind of doing the stuff that I do in terms of the people buying papi sticks, buying my essential oils for saunas, and kind of living this lifestyle. So it's been I was able to tap into that network by just doing the stuff that I do. Like
Well,
I was
that's
just,
that's a-
like don't make life too complicated.
it's pretty amazing. And he's a real inspirational guy, as you are as well. So I could see where the two of you would hit it off. I have a very serious question for you, Luis. I'm wondering, cold plunge or sauna? What's your favorite? You have to choose one. Which one
If
are
I
you
had
going to choose?
If I had to choose one, I would do the cold. Yeah.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
I would choose the sauna personally.
Yeah, I mean the cold is the one that got me to the sauna,
Mhm.
in terms of the benefits, even though the sauna has so much benefits and there's so much more to talk about just sauna in general with you, as maybe that's another episode.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
just the cold is so, you get so much in a short amount of time, you need a longer sauna session to get the benefits that you get in
Yeah.
just a few minutes in the cold.
That's
Maybe
true.
you should be the cold papi.
I used to be, so back in the day I was Freeze Luis was my
Oh,
I like
original.
that.
Reese Luis.
I was Freeze Luis, and then I became the Sauna Papi.
Well, as we wrap up this conversation, where can people find you, follow you, experience Sauna Strong,
Buy your
maybe a
poppy
special
stick.
offer?
Yeah, saunastrong.com. That's my gym here in Minnesota. They can also follow me on Instagram at thesaunapapi. I also have saunapapi.com. I sell sauna accessories there, and it's kind of like my own personal brand. But that's where I'm also going to be putting retreats and all these other events that I'm going to be doing during the winter here. I have plans for also having like a sauna village ongoing this winter in Minnesota, and retreats, sauna rentals, all this stuff, So saunapapi.com, saunastrong.com, and then on Instagram at the Sauna Papi.
And for local folks, we rented your sauna and cold plunge over the summer, and we did a yoga with the sauna and the cold plunge outside, and it was an amazing event. Like, so many people came because of that. Like, we didn't even know, like, listeners. So just for you guys out there, we will share this information, so follow us on Instagram too. And maybe we can do another event like that.
It was really fun.
Yes, it was really fun.
Yeah, so we'll basically, I'm gonna have a lot of sauna solutions out there, and cold water too.
Okay. And I know you mentioned a special offer for local listeners to come check out Sauna Strong.
Yes, yes. Basically, any person in your network can use. I believe we agree on a code?
Living Well.
Yeah, so Living Well, they can sign up at Sauna Strong for a free pass just to come try things, no strings attached. So yeah, we'll facilitate that code, and people can just come try it, and it's our gift to with both of you. It's our gift to your listeners.
Well, thank you so much.
And everyone should take him up on that because it's pretty.
Yeah. Again, come try it. No strings attached whatsoever. If anything, if we can leave every person with a new little piece of knowledge with all of this when they come visit us, and empower them to go do this type of stuff, figure it out, that makes us so happy.
Well, this has been such a fun conversation. And yeah, So inspiring. I think everyone's going to go out there and at least take a 2-minute cold shower, right?
Yeah, at least do that.
At least do that, right? It's free. So
Yeah.
the last question we love to ask all of our guests is, what does the art of living well mean to you?
It's simplifying my life. Simplifying my life. That's really what I'm trying to go after these days. And I feel like if I'm simplifying my life and being present, I'm living pretty well.
That is beautiful.
I love that. And I think we could all use a little simplifying, because like you mentioned earlier, life has gotten super complicated and fast, and it doesn't need to be this complicated, right?
Yeah, my invitation to everyone is like, whatever you're doing, just pause, take some deep breaths, go outside,
Yeah.
and just go back and just try to live a little more simple, have more simple moments during your day, and you'll see how powerful it is to just be a little more free and feel a little more human.
Well, thank you
I
for that
couldn't agree
wonderful
more.
advice,
Yeah.
and for being a guest on our show today.
Yeah.
We've really enjoyed having you.
Yep.
Thank you both so much for having me, and yeah, excited to see both of you and to do another one of this.
Yes, for sure. And I'm interested in these retreats when they come out.
Yeah, me too.
So-
Oh yeah.
Can't
There's
wait.
gonna be a lot of new information coming out in the next couple of weeks.
And please
Awesome.
make us jump in the lake this winter.
Oh, you don't worry.
I need a kick in the butt.
So do I.
It's
Marnie,
yeah.
I'm adding it to my vision board this year.
Yes.
My 2024 vision board is going to have me jumping in the lake. So
In the
I'm
It's
cold
happening.
lake, in the
in
winter.
the cold lake. I've said it for everyone
I'm
to
gonna
hear.
make sure that both of you do it several times this winter.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to shoot for one time first. That's my goal right now.
Oh boy. Lots of fun to
I'll
be had.
I'll take that.
Okay. All right. Have a
Okay.
great one.
Awesome. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.